Hi there, welcome to another Small Rambles video with me, writer and mental health advocate Tobe Allen. I'm also one half of the BARROW Podcast, the show that I do with my mum, where we discuss dysfunctional families, divorce and mental illness while attempting to write a memoir together. Last week I did a video on boys without fathers and looking at sort of that insecurity that develops. Specifically in that video I was looking at like things in society and culture that kind of like remind you of the fact that, you know, you grew up without a particular parent in your life. So Father's Day and that kind of thing, and the sort of macho culture of the school I went to and playing sports and having friends' dads who were the coach of the team and all that sort of stuff. So observing fathers and sons in the world and feeling excluded from that. I think the other thing that the other side of this, or there's several components to this. So there's that sort of feeling of exclusion, which sort of compounds the insecurity that you have about, you know, am I doing being a man right? Am I, you know, or am I kind of giving myself away that, you know, I don't have a male influence in my life? And the other kind of part of that wound is, am I giving away the fact that the man who was supposed to be in my life doesn't want to be, or, you know, that you know, you've been rejected, right? So, oh God, everyone's going to find out that like I'm a defective individual, whether it's a defective just human being or son, or, you know, because the genders are aligned, it sometimes felt like, oh, I must be some sort of defective male that my father has left. And so now I have to kind of figure out how to be a man. Am I passing for this thing? And yeah, that bred a lot of insecurity naturally. But the other thing that it did was it bred a distrust of men. And I wonder if this is a common thing for guys who grew up without dads to be a little bit sort of distrustful of men. Certainly that was my experience. And I have one area of life in which this played out, continues to play out, you know, pretty spectacularly and quite embarrassingly. And that is meeting the father of the person you're going out with. So meeting I'm not married, I probably never will be, but your father-in-law or your future father-in-law person, right? So your girlfriend's dad. You know, it doesn't have to be a heterosexual relationship either, but I would imagine this plays out in that. Yeah, it could be either, but certainly meeting, you know, my girlfriend's dad has always been excruciating, especially if he is a good guy, especially if he's like still married, especially if he's like the dad in her life. It's much easier when he's a deadbeat, because you're like, I don't have to prove anything. But yeah, if he's sort of like a good father who's still married, who's still there, who's still actively a parent, it's so difficult. And that was always the experience where going in to sort of like meet the family for the first time, this crippling anxiety and this crippling insecurity would come up. I have a really funny story about my paranoia that is absolutely humiliating, but I'll tell it right now. It wasn't a father-in-law, but it was a man. I was at a driving range with a girlfriend, and there was this older guy who was sort of like our dad's age, you know. We had bought a bucket of balls and we'd hit these balls at the driving range and the bucket was empty, and so we were leaving. And this guy purchased a bucket for us and just came up behind us and just placed it. If you've ever been to a driving range, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Just sort of placed it there and said, hey, you know, you guys can keep playing if you want. And I just went into this meltdown. I was like, what are you doing, you know? And he was like, what do you mean, what am I doing? I'm like, why are you giving us something, you know? And he was so confused because he was just trying to be a nice person and just being very generous. And I had never had that generosity in my life, especially from a man. And I just thought there was a catch. Like, this guy was trying to do something. Like, this guy wanted something, or he was like, and I need to be clear about this, I was about 18 or 19 at the time, so not my current form. I genuinely thought he was trying to like kind of dominate me in some kind of way or humiliate me in some kind of way. I had this big chip on my shoulder about dealing with men, dealing with fathers. And I was just like, I just lost it. I just was like, take your fucking bucket of balls and get the fuck away from me. You know, like, I'm not taking anything from you. Don't fucking come in my area. Do not fucking approach me. And my girlfriend was just like, we left. And my girlfriend was like, what the fuck was that? Like, what happened? And I'm like, what? Well, what do you mean? Like, what was with that guy? What does he want? And she was like, he didn't want anything. He just wanted to give us these free bucket of balls. He was being nice. And I was like, no, men aren't nice. They don't do that. And, you know, I really thought this person was trying to fuck with me in some kind of way. But even at that time, I didn't know what kind of way. Which, I mean, should tell you how traumatized I was from my experiences with men, and how, you know, deeply paranoid and completely disordered my thinking about men was. That's a humiliating story. It's embarrassing. I sound really crazy and aggressive, but it did happen. And again, I was like 18, 19, I think. Maybe 19, maybe 19, 20 years of age. But like fresh out of high school, and, you know, I hadn't grappled with anything that had happened in my life yet. And yeah, at that point, just total distrust of men. And there was the insecurity stuff, which I talked about in the last video, but there was also this really deep distrust and animosity towards other men. Like, what do you want? What are you going to do to me? Like, that's kind of how I approach men. So that says a lot. I hope that's taken as it's intended about, you know, the effects of these things. So yeah, if you have a similar story, or you know, this resonates and you want to share, please do so in the comments section. And if you find the things I say in these videos interesting, then I guarantee you're going to enjoy the Barrow podcast. You can find further information and links in the description to today's video, as well as on the homepage to this YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.